Brother James,
Yeah,
joy, honor, privilege.
man, where it all started.
Man, for real. I met you here.
Sitting right there.
Yeah, with Dr. Dan. Shout out Daniel
Geraldine
Fields.
and the whole crew.
Even before that, it was like a Kangen water thing.
True. Was that before? That was before?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That was even before we were in Prosperity Group together.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Damn.
because you had gotten a water thing from Daniel,
Uh-huh.
right? And then came Prosperity Group. And that's with Geraldine, Joel, but the OG crew though.
Yeah.
We had like Vivian. At any rate, hi.
What's up, man?
Man, happy to have you.
Always a pleasure.
If I serve you some tea, will you drink it?
Hell yeah.
Nice.
Let's get to it.
So I'm excited to talk to you because many reasons. First thing I want to talk to you about, though, is being an artist, specifically a mural artist,
Mm-hmm.
right? I see a lot of your pieces all over the Bay Area, and I'm curious to know how you land those and what medium you choose. Do you do paint? Do you do spray paint? Do you do mix? Like,
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
know about your muraling.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the desire to mural just comes from hip hop and the evolution of hip hop and being inspired by seeing graffiti art, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And so it was a natural desire of exploration because I didn't start even considering being an artist or doing murals until I was maybe 24.
Mm-hmm.
When I got laid off from my corporate job, it was like, all right, I'm gonna be an artist. And this was when I was living in New York, and so um, like I didn't even know what an easel was, truthfully. I went to the art store and was like, what do I need? Like what kind of brushes do I buy? What kind of paint do I use? It was right off of 59th Street at some art store, and they were hella cool. So um, that's how it really started. And my background was in business marketing. And I got my degree in business marketing. I don't come from an artistic family.
Mm-hmm.
Like my dad is a pastor slash former correctional officer with a military career. My mom's an educator. So the whole time I'm drawing and having sketchbooks and stuff, it's like, oh, it's a hobby that he's into, and never with the perception of this is actually a life path.
Mm-hmm.
And so beginning in New York around 2010, I was like, all right, how do I be an artist? And then what artist am I looking up to? And so as I'm figuring that out, I'm just also inspired by the gallery scene. And when I say gallery, I mean like galleries in buildings, but
Mm-hmm.
also galleries outside.
Yeah.
You feel me? So murals have just always been that.
Ah. Okay. So you had the interest in graffiti art as a youth and you were always doodling, but you took the dive to be a full-time artist in your 20s?
Yeah, I mean, but bro, it's not hard when you're miserable. You feel me? So it's like I was literally living the corporate life. It felt like the opening scene from The Matrix, where I live in Harlem. I'm commuting every day on the train. I'm wearing a suit and tie. You know what I'm saying? I'm sitting in front of a computer doing Excel sheet reports,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm terrible at it. I'm messing up the reports right away. Like, and I'm literally, this is the most miserable I've been after coming from a couple years of partying and living my best life going to Howard University. And now I'm sitting here in an office in a cubicle with something that I could care less about, such as how many pots and pans got sold. You know what I mean? And doing this report. So it was my first come to Jesus moment. You know what I'm saying? Where it was like, God, what do you want me to do? Or better yet, I just want to be happy. I just want to be happy. And then it was deductive reasoning for that. It was like, yo, I I don't know what makes me happy. I know what makes me miserable. I hate wearing these dress shoes. Any job that requires me to wear dress shoes, a suit and a tie, off the board. I
Mm-hmm.
hate doing math and anything that requires that is off the board. You know what I mean? And so it was just deductive. And then also at the same time, I'm looking at my reports and stuff or meeting notes from the job, they all have doodles in the margins, drawings in the margins and stuff. And so um, putting those together, and then also realizing that the only thing that was giving me life was being out in the streets of New York while I'm at the job, you know, cherishing the weekends and stuff like that, and just being crazy, crazy, crazy inspired by all the culture and the arts and the merging of yeah, being in New York. And so truly, man, I've always had an entrepreneurial hustler spirit, and I had the confidence and community from coming from Howard. So like it just gave me the confidence to be like, what's the worst that could happen? I end up back at this job. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, that's how it started off. And so from 2009 to 2013, it was starving artist years in New York, just cutting my teeth and you know what I mean, learning how to
Mm-hmm.
put one foot in front of the other.
Wow. So, what kind of art did you work with at first?
Acrylics, you know, like acrylic
Mm-hmm.
paint, canvas paint.
Mm-hmm.
It was painting in clubs and life parties. You know what I'm saying? Like I
Um,
actually had I was very fortunate to get mentored by by this artist named Craig Anthony Miller. He's based out of Dumbo in Brooklyn, and he took me under his wing. And he's a muralist and doing all the things that I aspire to. So I was able to dibble and dabble and get exposure. You know what I mean? From like trying to sell paintings on the street in Soho or something, and people being like, "Get off my block," or like I said, riding the clubs and parties with a canvas under my arm on a bike, you know, but just having a ball through it all,
mhm.
and yeah, it was just like it was the beginning. It it was early success that I was unaware of how fortunate I was to be having it, but it locked me in.
Dope.
You know what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
also one of the biggest things in 2011, I dropped the hip hop coloring book, and
Mm.
this took off. You know, it went viral before things were viral. I ended up on the
Yeah,
news.
2011. That's.
Yeah, yeah. I was on the news, MTV. The interview was running in the cabs. You know,
Mhm.
and once again, early success without me realizing what was actually taking place. Um, and not to say that I was chasing it, but like I lived a life in New York, you know. And so once New York had enough of me, it took all that I had. It took all that I had. I was like, I retreated back to the West Coast,
Mhm.
stay with my folks for like 6 months in Stockton, then came out the Bay, and then that began my second tier of artistic training. You know, one through tapping in through the school system and
Mhm.
teaching an art and after school program.
Dope.
You know, and
What
so
after school program?
Bret Hart Middle School, you
Okay.
know, Oakland Leaf, and
Mhm.
that gave me just my foundation of understanding like what community culture and engagement is. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Especially being out here in the East Bay where it's the real industry and the real thrive is community activation, you know what I mean, and community organizing. And so I actually did my first official mural or led my first official mural at Bret Hart Middle School,
Oh,
you
dope.
know, and so it was like it was there that I began to put together my pillars, as I would call them, which is art, education, and design. Because like
Mm.
I, in addition to wanting to being an artist and a painter, I wanted to be a designer. And so I forfeited going to grad school for just real life experience,
Mhm.
which was a blessing and a curse, depending on how you look at it. But um, another aspect of self education, I started attending hackathons. And this was when app
Mhm.
development was big, and you could go to a hackathon and just join a team and contribute and build.
Mm.
And
Is
that's
this
what
when you started doing the augmented reality
wasn't
mirror?
there was no augmented reality. It was just apps. You know,
Oh.
this was when how do I prototype an app? You know,
Mm.
how do I make screens so we could flick through it just to give a concept idea and get investments? You know, like that's all it was. It was the app rush of being in San Francisco and Oakland
Oh,
and
okay.
stuff. And then I met this brother named Kalima who's out here, and he was starting his own educational hackathon program where he was bringing youth, particularly Black and Brown youth, to be mentored by adults, professional
Mm.
adults, and it was just like this huge surge. And so, yeah, man, I did, and so I did that as well. And so from about 2013 through 2018, it was a combination of me figuring out how to survive through teaching, freelancing, and being in this tech circle of yeah, just getting to it. You know what I mean? So learning how to be a better designer, learning how to be a better educator, and then additionally, still using my marketing background to be like, all right, we're doing communication strategy, communication plans, we're doing design plans.
Mm.
And so that happened. But also, which was dope, was that in 2014, so I was going through the ups and downs of life. You know what I mean? One, like I just got done living life on the edge in New York. I'm talking about really living it. And now I'm taking shit from middle schoolers. You know, like that's a crisis identity. So,
Mhm.
man, I got that first tax refund for like $800 and bought a one-way ticket to Europe because I knew some homies that had been to Europe and they were MCs and artists and stuff. And
Oh, dope.
I had a good friend from New York who was living in Sweden at the time. And so I was like, yeah, I'm just about to follow in the steps of the black artists from the Harlem Renaissance. Like we always found freedom in Europe, you know what I mean? When things
Mm.
weren't sweet out here. And so, regardless, I went out to Europe and then my homegirl was like, well, I'm going on holiday. And so I got to Sweden 24 hours later. We fly to Amsterdam. And then it was in Amsterdam that there was a legal spray paint park. Um,
Ah.
and I was like, yo, what's up? How do you paint? And they were like, you could just go get Montana's from the flea market because right next door to Germany. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And so, man, I ended up buying 2 bags of spray paint, and for the next 3 months, I was just touring through Europe with backpack on the front, backpack on the back, and 2 cans of spray paint. And I was out there for like 10 weeks, and I saw
That's
artists.
so dope.
It was crazy. It was crazy because I saw artists, I saw painters
Uh-huh.
living and touring like musicians and stuff, going to
Yeah.
festivals, finding locations, you know what I mean?
They're
Like
getting sponsorships now, though.
sponsorships,
Hmm.
gallery connections. And so that was my real world education about what is what what street artists can be and how art can be accepted in society. You
Hmm.
know, because out here we're mad regulated. Oakland is maybe Oakland Oakland is an exception to the rule,
Heard.
but Europe they embrace it. You know what I mean? I'm talking about the city is a walking gallery that they
Hmm.
embrace. And so
Hmm.
I'm in Germany with it, Prague, um, Paris, London, and I'm just seeing. I was actually using um, a geomapping website called OpenWalls.net or something like that, and I realized that I could travel and move as an artist, you know,
And
and
go to all the free walls.
free walls. And man, and like I
Hmm.
said, so there's this thing. You read the book The Alchemist,
Of course.
um, and so there's a portion in The Alchemist where it's like something along the lines of God will give you early success just to lock you in. You know what I mean? And you not even being aware of how like successful that is. And so, man, I ended up at so so I met this Belgian dude named Cedric, and he was like, "Yeah, I just applied to this street art festival," and I'm like, I'm like, "All right, cool, I'm apply too, bro." It's Meeting of Styles. Meeting of Styles is the #1 street art festival in the world, and I get accepted, and it's like a trash wall. You know what I mean? It's the last wall there. I've only been spray painting for a month or something like that. I end up doing this dope painting, and this was right when the time I think George Floyd had happened, or not
Mm.
George Floyd, excuse me, but Mike Brown. And so I ended up doing a political piece or whatever with this child hugging this leg, right? And I with the caption, don't leave, the police will murder you too, or something like that. But impactful, it makes it into the book. So, not only am I in this festival, but I make it and I get published in this book and all this stuff. But the biggest thing was that I met the Brazilian artist. And I was like, bro, how are you doing this? And he was like, through community. Show up as an artist, offer your gifts, you know what I mean? Blah, blah, blah.
Wow.
And so I take all that game.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 years later, I go to Africa. And I'm in Africa for 3 months, applying community, arts education, just all of my tools and making it happen. You know what I mean? So I do that 2 years, 2016 in Africa, then 2018 in Colombia. And for some reason, it's always 10 weeks with me. But regardless, that was that second tier of just putting everything together from 2013 to 2018. And then after that, I was sitting on the balcony in Colombia and I was like, man, I need to make a play because financially it's not happening. And fortunately, I get back and I get a job at the labor union, you know? And so this is like, my goal has always been to surpass the financial security of a job and through the means of an artist, you know, which is like a hybrid adaptation as opposed to just saying, I'm just a painter. I was like, I'm designing, I'm blah, 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 blah. But regardless, I ended up getting a communication design job at this labor union, SEIU 10-1 here in Oakland.
Oh, yeah.
And that began to train me in what it is to tell member stories, you know, and and the importance of organizing and, you know what I'm saying, workers' rights and workers' power. And so, while it was a success, you know, and it did change my life, I was still unhappy because the whole time while I'm living this balanced life and what seems successful at to the everyday person, you know, I got the FOMO of like seeing my artist homies, you know what I mean? I still, the aspirations to create and be free are still in me. This is the first time in almost 10 years that I'm sitting in an office building, you know? And so 2.5 years later, man, I end up quitting summer 21. And it was just like, yo,
that's post-COVID too.
yeah. So, and that was also some awakening moments.
That's right around the time we met.
Couple shroom trips, you know what I'm saying, later to be like, what's my real purpose and passion and all that stuff. And yeah, that's also maybe 22 was when I met Daniel because I had a crazy tennis elbow. You know what I mean? So Geraldine, Daniel, and then eventually to you. But I say all that to say is the third tier is the summer of 21, where it's like, all right, I'm locking in art wise. And I'm thinking I'm just going to be doing school mural programs and working to be a muralist or whatever. And, but additionally, I was like, I have to raise the stakes. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm gonna go out on my sword, like I gotta experiment, I gotta try new mediums or whatever. And that's what led me into sculpture, where I was inspired by traveling to Mexico City and stuff and seeing different artists, but I was like, I want to see my abstract form in 3D mode. And I was inspired by like soft sculpture, like pillow shapes or whatever, just because of that energy of my work. And yeah, about the fall of 21, I kind of like took those first steps and those first experiments. And by February of 22, I had my first collection and I did an installation at the Black Joy Parade where they were playing with these shapes and making a game out of it. It was cool. And then
like those shapes in your logo?
like, yep, based off my logo. And then a few months later, I had an opportunity to participate in a Juneteenth installation where I knew that I got familiar with what it takes for upholstery and working with the manufacturer and all that stuff. or the production team. And so I was like, well, I don't have enough money for a new collection, but I do have this old couch that's just sitting outside. It's getting rained on, it's tore up. I could at least customize it. It's not what I want to do, but it's at least putting a foot forward. And, like that's really the birth of the watermelon couch.
So
Was
it's a reupholstered couch?
it's a reupholstered couch, bro. Yeah, yeah. Just using what I have
Uh-huh.
and experimenting, And so I just thought I was just making something cool. That's it. Like I made it, I put it out, nobody sat on it, it was just on display, and it sat for 6 months. And that's when you come in.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's when you come in.
Doug, I just asked you about mural.
That's the story.
Wow. Well, before we get into the next phase, can I pause to kind of digest what you've shared? Because I wanted to ultimately ask you about your wandering experience with this couch tour, but I'm coming to understand that you've been wandering for a minute.
I've been wandering as something that's been instilled in me from birth, bro.
Mhm.
And I'll say it like this because my first wandering experiences happened when I went to kindergarten. My mom got her teaching degree, and then we went from first grade to sixth grade. I was in two different other elementary schools. Then after elementary school, I went to a different middle school on the other side of town. And then at the end of middle school, we moved from Sacramento to Stockton, where I went to a high school. And then I went to junior college, and then I went to the East Coast for Howard, and then from DC to New York. So I was constantly
God, you're just a fucking tumbleweed.
I was constantly figuring out how to adapt in a new environments. You know what I mean? Different friend groups, different norms. And so that instilled this wandering. And I've also always had it too, you know what I'm saying? But like, I see that as a formality. Like, culturally, New York is different, East Coast is different. You know what I mean? Like, I'm constantly reintroducing myself into new communities. And so, yeah, that wanderingness was like something that was also pushed to where I'm okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for that. Amidst this wandering journey as an artist, you mentioned New York, you mentioned here in the Bay, you mentioned Europe. May I ask what you think is the difference between those three scenes?
I'll say freedom. You know what I mean? Because art is freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Like art is freedom and art is power. So when you correlate that to this prison industrial complex / capitalistic mentality, is to take away freedoms. You know what I mean? Take away the opportunities to think. So when you look at Germany per se, they went through Nazi Germany, then the Cold War. So they know the importance of being free. So that's why they embrace that ingenuity, you know what I'm saying, in the art scene where you can see murals on dilapidated buildings and full buildings and just like they get it. They get what's at stake and they get the importance of preserving culture, you know? And it's yeah, and that's the difference between everywhere. Like I'm in Africa and it's like it's free for real. You know what I mean? I'm in third world countries, but people are relaxed. Their temperaments and stuff are way more chill. You can tell that they're they're unbothered by things that don't exist outside of their region. You know, and that all has an effect on artistry.
Man. Well, I did have some curiosities about murals because I have a background in graffiti and
Yeah.
I love mural art. And I've seen some of your pieces around the Bay. And I'm curious to know what's the biggest piece you've run?
It's probably a group piece, back in around 2018, I think. And back in 2018, there was an Oakland Mural Festival.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was right on, it was right off the train line, the Amtrak line. I think a PG&E power building, something like that. So it was four of us, me, Chuck, Tim, and Ben, just four of us, and we did the um, Crunk Dancer coming out of three panels. So you can kind of see that on the back wall. But yeah, man, it's a muraling has always been my North Star dangling carrot, because as finding my path, I'm more of a hybrid type person as opposed to a focus specialist. And so when the Bay is one, Oakland, San Francisco, the Bay is, I would say, a top three mural city, street art city scene in America.
Word.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. You have New York, you have Miami, you have Los Angeles, you have Austin, you have the
Miami is
Bay,
where the
Art Basel, Wynwood.
it's also where the graffiti museum is
Yeah,
too. And was it Meow Wolf or something like that's out there too?
a lot of them, a lot of them. But I would just say like the skill set, the technical ability, and once again the ability to embrace murals, which is highly reflective of the social justice component and organizational component of the Bay Area, is that even though Oakland has lost all of our sports teams and a lot of tech money and stuff was pulled from under us and everything else, we've still contributed to the visual landscape, through different organizations like BAM, TDK, like and the likes, where they're like continuing to just push the representation of community. And like that's what artists
Wow,
need.
TDK.
Oh yeah,
Those
bro.
damn kids.
Legends.
Tax dollars kill. I would have never expected to hear that crew.
Oh, I mean,
Wow.
legends though. You know
For
what I
sure.
mean? Like
Shout
these
out Dream.
are when
Shout out Vogue. Shout out Poem.
yeah.
Shout out Spy.
How can you? So when I'm talking about like this being a top tier city, like I'm literally or top tier art scene, it's literally like, hey yo, murals and graffiti are just expansions of an artist's canvas. Like maybe back in the day it was confused a lot more with graffiti, which is a legal term. You know what I'm saying? Graffiti is illegal versus no, this is street art, bro. This is just art on the street. And so, as someone who's self-taught, I literally analyze these pieces as just like aspirational. What can I take from it? Who can I learn from? And eventually, what can I go practice myself? Yeah.
Dope, man. When you get into some of these bigger productions or just mural in general, do you use projectors? Do you use scale? Like, how do you?
Everything's fair game. You know what I'm saying? Everything's fair game, bro. So even now in this generation of AI, it's
the virtual reality goggles.
virtual reality goggles with projection mapping to concept ideation, whatever. But just like any art form practice, whether it's martial or visual, is what's your foundation? Like what's your root? If your tools collapse on you, you know what I'm saying? Can you bring it back to the eye and the hand? You know what I'm saying? Like what's your go-to? And so that's what I like to call street art is a combat activity because you're really in the elements, like you're really in the unknown where you either, for one, you got to make sure you're cool with the people out there.
Yes.
That's something else that relates to street artists is your ability to connect and relate to community.
Because that's a beef between graffiti artists and street artists.
It's a beef, but it's also a respect, because one, there's a skill set respect level. There's like you can see who's applying technical skill to their work, whether you consider yourself a graffiti artist or a street artist. You know what I'm saying? And then two, it's like if you do something that represents the community, the neighborhood respects that. Just like we were having that conversation earlier with Matt about the elders or whatnot taking watch. Like, hey, I do whatever on this block, or I was talking to you the whole time, even when you're long and gone, we're right here holding this down. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, you have to have a social skill set, which is real and intimidating at times, where it's like, man, I got checked a few times going up and trying to paint something and not having awareness. Once again, self learner. But in addition to that, you know what I mean? Like, are you painting at night? You painting in the morning? Do you have your tools? Did you forget tools? You know what I mean? Whatever, whatever. And so muraling becomes more about production
Hmm.
and your ability to produce. You know what I'm saying? Is work with larger budgets, work with teams and all that. So is sweet spots and ambition, and then also just the physical wear and tear.
Word. Hmm. Thank you for scratching that itch because when I was doing graph and then when I went to college, I quit graph, but I had a little stint of doing
Mm-hmm.
murals too. And I'd work at restaurants and then they'd let me paint specials on
Mm-hmm.
the windows
Yeah.
or do the signboards,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. And
Mm-hmm.
so every now and then I still find ways to tie in my graph,
Yeah.
maybe page layout design or something like
Mm-hmm.
that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I appreciate murals, I appreciate the craft, and I appreciate the scale
Yep.
of it too. And so, yeah, thank you for answering those questions for me. Now, I'm curious to know because you brushed on martial art too.
Yeah.
So one last question on that stuff before we shift gears is how would you say that your experience now doing martial arts has affected your mural art or creative mediums and vice versa?
And I would just say that one, quality of life is reflected in the work that I do. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And qigong practice of wellness and longevity is a huge factor of that. So it's not even about, I wouldn't even apply it to art first. I would just apply it to myself. When it comes to intelligence, I think you made the statement of where's your brain. Everything's your brain. Your hands, your brain. You know what I mean. Your senses are your brain. All these things. It's just an improvement in overall wellness. And that's something that I think will carry me and my art forward before I even address a medium. You know what I mean, or a style. It's just like, what's my overall wellness and my ability to function.
Um, well, we kind of took that tangent from your story to dabble in this stuff because now this is the really juicy stuff that I got you here for was talking about the watermelon couch
Mm-hmm.
and the tours you had done on that because that's right around the time when I'm first getting to know you.
Oh yeah, I've been waiting to tell this. This story is amazing. Now that you're actually here, you might as well just record. Hit the record button on this too, cause let's see it. See if you can hold it up or whatever. But yeah, we're gonna tell this story.
What's the name? Oh, you built.
Yeah, I don't know how that holds up, but yeah, either way, something like that.
It holds up perfectly. I got one of these too.
Put it on the 0.5 or whatever. But yeah, man. No, this story is so wild. I don't tell this story publicly.
Oh, until now you got two cameras.
Yeah, like this is the wildest story, man. That I don't even tell it. I don't even tell it publicly. But yeah, this is how this happens.
Word.
So I'm going. So it's Thursday night. I'm in Berkeley getting a tattoo by my man Bounce, Mr. Bouncer.
Yeah.
Bingo. This is how real this is, bro. This is how real this is. So I get this tattoo. As I'm there, I get a call from G. G's like, yo, come have tea with us tomorrow night. We're gonna play some games or something. I'm like, whatever, G. I rock with you, sure. I get this
Shout out
tattoo.
Geraldine.
Yeah, I get this tattoo. The next day I pull up. We're all around here. I'm sitting in that chair right there. And you pull out, or not pull out, but you're reading our charts. You know what I mean? Of just going through each of us. And it's like, we're all in amazement. He gets to me and he's like, yo, there's something up with you and your ancestors and you got to figure that out. And I'm like, what? And that time my arms start tingling. And mind you, I just got a tat. So I'm like, what are the odds? But I look at, this is the tattoo that I got, which is a Sankofa bird. Sankofa bird, West African, Adinkra symbols. It's literally means learning from your past, ancestral, right? Then I look at this arm, and I had this tattoo back in 2015, and it's a homage to the slave boats with the ancestors in here. And so all of a sudden, I realized that I have two ancestral tattoos on my arm, and this was like, it wasn't to my awareness. So I'm kind of freaked out, like, yo, what did I just do? And so that night happens. We have a follow-up we have a follow-up reading, like not too long after that. And he's like, yeah, it says here in your chart that you have something to do with your ancestors, whatever. And I'm like, okay, interesting. This same week or something, I see a grant that comes out. And it's like, I'm like, oh, I could use this for the watermelon couch. I'm gonna probably take a road trip or something like that because it's about farms and justice, whatever. But in that same group, probably sitting there was Giselle. And Giselle does readings as well. So without telling Giselle about what happened between us or this grant, she goes and reads my Akashic records. And she's like, yo, the message that I'm getting from your ancestors is that you need to take a trip to your spiritual homeland. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense because I've already been to Africa. And then it just clicks. I'm like, well, technically, my ancestors are from the South. And I was like, oh shit. David just told me I need to take a trip. I just decided that I was going to take a trip from seeing this grant. And now she's telling me that I got to take a trip to the South, once again in threes. And it was just like goosebumps hit me, you know what I mean? Like a crazy conviction. Because the next vision was to take the couch to the birthplace of Juneteenth, which was Texas, which is the South. My family's in Alabama. So I was just like, oh shit. And so from that point on, from the beginning of 23, I kind of put all other aspirations aside outside of truly making money to be like, I got to do this. You know what I'm saying? And it was just like, that's when everything else that I accumulated through that story I told you all came into play at
Every skill set.
at different times. And that was really the real voyage of the watermelon couch, because I wasn't going to be successful like I was in search of. You know what I'm saying? Like I was trying to find myself, trying to find answers, trying to see what God was trying to tell me. Like there was no vision or desire to be like, oh, I'm making a video series or whatever. People were like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm out here, man. One-way ticket type shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just out here. And people responded to that. They held me down, and one thing happened after the other. But that was the whole reason why this trip happened.
Man, I really appreciate how you shared that perspective of how everything you learned along your journey came into play in this trip. It's funny how life happens.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah. That was good. You could pause it on that one. But yeah, I had to get that in there. Yeah.
I got you, cuz. Very sure.
Yeah, that's the real. So it's like you know what I mean? Like I can't go up there and tell my pastor dad Christian mom. It's like, yo, I was having tea and I had the tattoos and now yeah, they like, what?
My dad was a minister, but my dad wasn't a minister before.
Yeah. so it's super wavy, you know what I mean? But also that's the intersection where I exist, you know what I mean? Even with being an artist and stepping out is like, if it was normal and the status quo, you know what I mean? Like that's not where I thrive,
Mhm.
you know? Because the other thing too is like, man, I was kind of beating myself up slash being like, why have I not made it yet? Or why am I struggling to make it? Like I'm seeing my peers, and being a self-educator is comparison. You know what I mean? That's the way to learn. And not coming from an artistic background, I'm thinking struggling is not normal. You know what I mean? And so like the watermelon couch really just represented the evolution of making it. You know what I'm saying? And like the maturity, because over the following 3 years of deciding to take that journey, it was like some ups, some downs, you know what I mean? All just to make it through to the other side. And so, um, and like I said, because I had to use all of my known resources, skill sets, beliefs, and faiths, it was like the furnace to remove doubt, you know what I mean, give confidence, see tangible results, and like make it onto this other side now. Yeah.
Mm. So you've in effect done 3 tours
Mm-hmm.
of the couch.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So I did the first tour, and I went down to Texas, and I have family in Foley, Alabama. So it's right along the 10 straight shot. I borrowed my uncle's truck. I was gone for a month. And one of my interviews went viral from the OG farmer, Mr. Burkett, in Petal, Mississippi. And it was like, okay, proof of concept. This is actually, people want to see this. People want more of this. Follow up reading. You're like, yeah, the ancestors are proud. Do it again. And I was like, all right. And so, you know, a
And that
lot
was the video of the difference between seedless and
seeded watermelon.
seeded watermelons.
Yeah,
Which
yeah,
is a thing.
big deal. And so significant. You know, who knew?
Could we talk about that real quick? Because the understanding is that if you have a seedless watermelon, that's GMO watermelon, and there's no life in it, you don't want it.
Well, here's the thing. It's a misapplication of the term GMO, right? Because genetic modification is literally science. It's plant breeding. You know, like, oh, you want seeded or seedless marijuana. You want seedless. You know what I mean? Like it's a phenotype. You want male or female. You cross pollinate. Like this is farm science. And so the misconception of GMO is like chemically enhanced, you know, and so they're applying that label, not knowing that they're trying to talk about, you know, chemical enhancements in the terms of GMO or being unhealthy, but it's literally male or female chromosomes in plants, and that's what the farmer was describing. Um, and so
Oh,
that's the big misconception, and he was just explaining the literal science chart of how do you get a male or in a female plant. Yeah.
mhm. Sure. Oh. That's interesting to me because, oddly enough, in our lineage, Grandmaster YC Cho, my Shaolin teacher, he was a master. He was the kung fu guy, the tai chi guy, the Chinese medicine guy, the calligraphy guy. Same, Ben's teacher, YC Chan.
Mm-hmm.
But he grew perfect watermelons.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
he'd have 7 on each vine, and they'd be the perfect size. And he'd like predict, he'd be like, "Oh, this one's gonna be this big. It's gonna be this sweet. It'll be really
Yeah.
this,"
Yeah.
and he had it down.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yeah, bro, it's like, and that's how you know our disconnection from actually growing food is that we'll use these stories and narratives until you get to the people actually in the field, and their association and relationship to land is completely different. You know, is way more informed and practical because these there's no such thing as a dumb farmer. You know what I mean? Unless you're not a good farmer, but you can't be a good dumb farmer. It's like the wisdom that they have and the discipline that they practice and their lifestyle commitment to really growing food is multifaceted. You know, like you're going to be an engineer as a farmer. You're gonna, you know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
you're gonna do all these different aspects just to make sure that you're producing good crops. And so yeah, man, that like happened year one, and then year two was the real Spirit Quest because by that time I had decided that I was gonna retrace the Great Migration routes. You know, like it's a good theme, it's a good storyline, it's literally the history and trajectory. Plus, I was like, I'm just gonna travel the country, you know, like why not? Because that was my intention on the first time, but I could only. It happened to be that I would last for 1 month, and so year number two,
Is that when you had the minivan?
2024, completely dry. I mean, by it's a dry year. Like I only had enough money to make it to the next month, meaning some bills were getting paid, some bills weren't. June comes up, I'm supposed to leave in a week. I still don't got a car, realizing that I can't borrow my uncle's truck for this long. XYZ. So things happen, magical things happen where I get enough money to buy a $3,000 van in the Fruitvale. And I'm like, good, cool. It's a 2001 Honda Odyssey with like 140,000 miles on it. You know, I'm like, all right, cool. I'm ready to rock. Joint breaks down in the desert on the second day. And I'm gonna speed through this. It breaks down in the desert. I end up in this Kingman, Arizona, on the border of Arizona and California, like 2 hours outside of Flagstaff. And I'm at this random hotel. I end up meeting this lady early in the morning to have tea because now I'm on my tea kick for qigong. You know what I mean? Um, and we chop it up later that day on a Sunday because I have to be there over the weekend. Um, she donated $2,000 to me. And not only that, bro, I was 3 minutes away from the auto shop and my thermostat blew. They had the part. They fixed the thermostat. I'm checking the car, the battery light comes on, alternator dies right there. They got the part. And these miracle coincidences happen. And that's the energy that carries through the whole trip of me just being out there on the road, enough money to make it to the next day. I'm either being taken in, provided for in some sort of way, and additionally, people are speaking life into me. You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh no, you're an artist. You're supposed to be doing this. This is how you're. This is what you're here for. And like that wasn't, you know what I mean? And as someone that was still looking to for identity and confirmation, it was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is the space that I'm supposed to be in. Because mind you, still ain't got no money. You know what I mean? Like I'm still not quote unquote successful, and um, I push it, and I'm gone for 3 months this time. You know what I mean? And I go all the way down. I go through the South, down to South Carolina, miss Florida, but made it all the way up to Maine, you know, and then I come back. And the whole time, like magical moments are happening, like crazy magical moments to even where I'm in Denver. I end up doing this
Oh, and then you cut your hair.
I end up doing this little electronic cleanse. Once again, G, you see these cycles coming up.
Shout out, Joe.
She's gone. I'm in her space, which is a wavy crystal palace. And I end up doing shrooms in the park. I'm just like, like this is cool. I'm coming back feeling like a champ. And I hop in the water for this detox bath, and the voice is like, you got to cut the hair. You don't want to leave this mountain with that hair on your head. And I'm like, what? Hella mad, try to watch some anime, 1 a.m, cut off my locks of like 14 years, you know? And I remember the intention I set before I took that trip was, the shroom trip was like, yo, let me just release anything that's holding me back. And I'm thinking it's like mental or something like that, but it ended up being just another transformational experience.
Well, they're literally called locks.
And so that transformational experience hit. I get back to Oakland and I'm like, all right, I'm a new man. I'm about to take off. I just had some success. And then it's the hardest 4 months of my life from October September, October, November, or October, November, December, January. I mean, I gotta borrow money to pay rent from my parents. They're looking at me crazy, like, all right, bro, like, what are you doing? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're doing this couch, like, what are you doing? You can't even pay your bills. Next month, I borrow money from my grandma. Like, I'm putting like 15 of my last $20 in gas to drive down to Sacramento this year type deal. Gigs that I'm trying to get are just canceling on me the day before. And I mean, these are simple design gigs or something, things where it's just like, just let me pay rent or let me pay my electricity bill. I'm on the couch in the fetal position. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just down bad. But
You get that $100,000 grant, right?
before that, it's the moment of me realizing, like, you know what? This is my opportunity to get whatever I want. And it feels similar to when I was in Colombia and I said I wanted a job because I chose the job over the art per se. And I was like, if I want security in a job, like, I know I'm gonna get that. And if I want this art life, I know I'm gonna get that. And at the same time, their job application came through with this foundation for a community arts manager that I was perfect for, 200K. And I was like, you know what? Nah, I'm gonna keep going with this art shit. And I mean, my car got repoed at the time. If I'm late on rent, I'm getting evicted. And I was like, this is literally what the Titanic felt like, of just seeing it, everything go down, and you're just stuck on that ship. Because I was like, I'm not crazy. I played my hands. I knew I wanted to do X, Y, and Z. Like, I'm not tripping. And I still applied for the job, but by that time I knew I wasn't going to take it. And a week before my birthday in February, I'm laid up on the couch and Felicia calls me. Now, Felicia is a sister I didn't work with in Marin City doing graphic design projects to honor the shipyard workers. And it was really, really dope. But she called me and was like, I'm ready to start the project. It's like, what are you talking about? It's Friday night. Long story short, the project is worth 40K contract. She's ready to pay half now. And so the following week, right before my birthday, I deposited a check for 20K and my bank account reads 20K and 84 cents. You feel me? Like, and so I'm just stuck. And this is the day before my birthday. And so I'm turning 40. And so at that moment, I'm just sitting on the couch, just like, what? Because I needed like 4,000 to get out the hole. You know what I'm saying? But it was just like that warm experience. Like, what have I been going through? And so what that really showed me, first of all, was that the work that I was doing was good enough. The people that I was working with had the abundance. You know what I'm saying? Because right after that too, I realized that I was going to get a grant for my tech work with this couch and augmented reality. And I got a grant for 100K right before I left for the third trip. And I'm glad that I got this work with Felicia first, because I realized that while the 100K is amazing and it's dope, if I would have got that first, I would have been chasing those organizations or thinking I had to align myself with XYZ. But just to recap, one being having nothing and having the commitment that I'm going down with the ship was the final straw to realize, like, yo, I am an artist and I'm gonna be an artist till I die, because I feel like I'm dying now. You know what I mean? Two, with Felicia being like this community work and realizing the abundance of my community and the work of my community is like, yo, what I'm doing is what needs to be done. You know what I mean? And then lastly, with getting this tech grant, because on that second trip, I participated in a Juneteenth hackathon just to be of service in community, and I ended up winning it. But like, it was that play of doing augmented reality that set me up for this grant, which goes back to my roots doing the hackathon stuff. Once again, everything that I'm about made way for provision and to be incorporated. You feel me? And so it was like, that's why the Watermelon Couch is so special, because it's the artist journey behind it that like gave me like my complete evolution. You know what I'm saying? And so now that I'm in this space, it's like, okay, now the old, now that that book is complete. You know what I'm saying? And now it's like the start of a new book and a new journey. But like, yeah, it's that book of like the miracles. And the miracles continue to happen on the third trip too. But like that second trip, man, wild, like wild times.
Mm. Well, for us in our Taoist tradition, the wanderer's journey is important. It's
Hmm.
like you earn your stripes in the temple, but then you leave. It's often called cloud wandering,
Hmm.
and you just test the merits of your skill.
Yep.
And you had touched on it a little bit with your time in Europe and Africa. What I'll paraphrase and say, you learn to show up, shut up, add value. And
Hmm.
those are our values,
Especially when you don't speak the language.
right? You can't talk. So you gotta shut up. But
Hmm.
then, in terms of being a wanderer, how is it that you get to travel and not be a burden, not be a leech, not be a vampire, and drag people down along your way? You just show up, shut up, add value, and then when you leave, they want you to come back.
Hmm. So true.
And so, to have a skill set strong enough and a passion and a purpose strong enough, game recognized game.
Yeah, man. And like I couldn't, like, you, our group, were so integral to my programming and processing, because I'm only taking one step in front of the other, and I'm being supported by y'all to make that happen. You know what I mean? Because it's like, when I chose the Watermelon Couch,
Mm-hmm.
I had to leave my art aspirations alone. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of stopped painting for the most part. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like, I, even with, so even in the friend groups broke off, and I wasn't getting the invites. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, damn, here I am in this hybrid space that's kind of growing more horizontal and less vertically, or I'm just focused on one vertical growth and the others are just there. And it's like, it was imperative that I met with you before each trip, and imperative that I met with Giselle, and that Joel helped me do the recordings, and like Don Consulting, and just everybody was fueling me along the way, because this is some, like, what I can do is walk. You know what I'm saying? And I don't need to know the answer. That's what I'm good at. But like, the resources of just trying and experimenting all came from my closed group, immediate group here, and then my larger group of strangers who I was going to meet. You know what I'm saying? Or family and friends who I've met in the past. So that's like, that's really how it happened. And this is not, and I'm saying this because it's like, it was never a full picture. Like, never.
Wow, bro. There's so much other stuff I want to ask you about, but out of respect of your time,
Yeah, how we doing?
let me ask you really quick. What's next for
Yeah, so as I was saying, it's like, this is operating from the perspective of an artist, which is I have all of this material now. You know what I mean? Like I've collected all of these, all of this documentation. And so now how do I create with it? You know what I'm saying? Which is also another ancestral practice because by the second trip, I realized that saw a documentary actually and was pointing in the direction of Zora Neale Hurston, who was a writer from the Harlem Renaissance. And she was the first person to go into Black communities with a camera, which was one, having a car, having a camera, driving through the South, period, and being a woman was insane. But she went into Black communities, built with them, you know what I'm saying, as part of community, documented them, and then came back and made art about it. She was a writer. She wrote stories. And it's like, I'm doing the same thing now, you know? So it's like, I'm making various projects and art projects to communicate this experience. And that's why it's like the beginning of the second book for me, you know what I'm saying? Or whichever, however you want to catalog it. But now this is pushing that art out. And the same way that the couch utilized all of my experiences and trainings is kind of the same thing. So I got interactive engagements where I made the bounce house and thinking about different ways to be an installation and interactive artist. You know, I still have the concepts of not only doing augmented reality coffee table books, but also coloring books and even chapter books if possible, thinking about what it means to facilitate community through residency programs and building an app for it, stuff like that. And then, you know, and then officially too, just staying in the furniture design space, making more couches for other people and building it all out. So all in all, it's just becoming like the Watermelon Couch Institute or the Watermelon Couch universe, you know, where I'm staying in my central position, but just as you said in a reading, is like being grateful for help when it comes, you know what I'm saying? But also just continuing to tinker at my own pace. And then from there, who knows?
That's what's up.
hmm
Got just enough time. Where can people find you? Air
Creative
Temple.
creativeshields.com, you know, Google the Watermelon Couch. The Air Temple is my residency program that's based in Jack London, Oakland. You can find that on Instagram. Yeah.
Okay. If I could ask one more, I'm going to really push this to the line. What would you give as advice to a young aspiring artist?
Oh, man. One, I would say that you are your own experiment. And if you treat yourself like an experiment, a science experiment, meaning you have intention and an output, you're going to get a measurable response. And that's how, and only you can determine that. Like, as an artist, there's no box for you to fit in. Even if you aspire to be in a box, realize that it's going to be up to you to figure that out, as opposed to getting a job and saying, this is who you are. Like, and I would also say, figure out and take that time to experiment to figure out what kind of artist you are. Because some artists are job style artists. They're a service, you know what I mean? Like either they're working for somebody or they're working for themselves, but they're a service. Other artists are activists, you know what I mean? And they find their lane. So like you, to all young artists, is that you're not defined by the artist's label. You're defined by the work that you create. And I would say lastly that if you want to be successful, be of service, you know? And I'm talking about like, if I would have committed myself to painting portraits, I would have sold more paintings, because portraits reflect, people buy portraits because it makes them feel good and they can see their loved ones and they can see themselves. So I would have sold more paintings. But I'm painting abstract things in the back, like, man, why ain't nobody rocking with me? You know what I'm saying? But it's like, oh, if I would have saw myself as being of service and not just trying to blow up and be a product, I think I would have saw a greater return. And so it's like, it's in the form of service that like we're really successful. And then last but not least, especially in this age of technology or whatever, AI, is that we're the most successful being authentic and making real human connection. Like social media got it because threw us off our square, you know what I mean? And we think we're a brand, we think we're a product, and it's like we might be that down the line, but like the most successful people that have engagement are those that have authenticity and connection. Like when I was on the road with the couch, like they saw what it was. They saw that van. You know what I'm saying? Like they saw a random couch and they were like, oh, this dude's on a different type of time. Let me help him out. You know what I mean? Like they felt that authenticity as opposed to me showing up with a polished image and a whole product. You know what I mean? It was like, I don't know. It was like they were more connected to that. And even when I went viral, it wasn't nothing that was polished or pre-planned. It was just in the spur of the moment with some real conversation from real people. And so with that being said, that's the advice that I use for myself now, where I'm able to let go of the labels and let go of the aspirations of being on somebody's platform and just being like, man, God was able to use me as such, then like I'm gonna just keep rocking, because it's actually what I want to do and how I want to do it at this point. And yeah, that's just where I'm at with it.
Wow, man. I really love how all of the Kung Fu values and principles show up in your life course. And there's this thing that we do in our school where we have 10 steps for a disciple. And oftentimes, many people will have a life course that's such that they'll have already fulfilled some of those things, right? You're one of those cases where, those 9 things, for example, would be volunteer, public speaking, get published, host an event, create a mission, a purpose, all these various things that we have our disciples do. You've already done them on your own accord.
Mm-hmm.
So, I recognize and honor your journey, and thank you so much for coming and sharing.
Hey, man.
I want to ask you so much more.
Yeah. Wouldn't have been possible. I say it wouldn't have been possible, but like I said, the origin story started at this table. So